Coming up today, looking to soothe public outrage over a massive power abuse scandal, President Park Geun-hye shakes up the cabinet, replacing her Prime Minister and Finance Minister. With the deadline for action approaching, an arrest warrant is set to be issued for the woman at the heart of the scandal. There are reports she received millions of dollars from Samsung Group. Plus, could North Korea be laying the groundwork for another missile launch? Some US experts say it could happen in the coming days. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 2nd of November. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Mark Broom. We start with the latest on the power abuse scandal and the resulting political fallout from it, answering public and political calls to overhaul her administration. In the wake of the scandal, President Park Geun-hye has appointed a new Prime Minister and Finance Minister who also serves as the Deputy Prime Minister. The reshuffle comes at a critical time as the series of revelations linked to President Park's longtime friend have significantly weakened the administration. Song Ji-sun starts us off.
3 days after replacing key aides linked to the Choi Soon-sil scandal, President Park has appointed a new Prime Minister and Finance Minister, who also serves as a Deputy Prime Minister, as she sets up a new and more balanced cabinet to carry administration through the remainder of her term. Kim Byung-jun, a professor at Kookmin University of Public Administration and Policy, who once served as the policy chief for the late President Roh Moo-hyun, is the nominee for Prime Minister. The president expects Kim to use his experience in the government and academia to help the nation prepare for its future.
We expect the nominee to fulfill his role as Prime Minister, meeting the public's needs with policies catering to the people from their perspective. He's the right person to overcome the current crisis and lead the cabinet for the nation's future.
Financial Services Commission Chairman Im Jong-ryung replaces Yoo Il-ho as Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister. The presidential office said Im, with his depth of experience in both the public and private sectors of finance and the economy, is the right person to carry out the government's major reform drives. President Park has also appointed former Vice Minister of Gender Equality and Family Park Seung-ju as the new Minister for Public Safety and Security. The new Prime Minister, who is not from the traditional group of Park loyalists, will likely take a greater role in leading domestic affairs in the cabinet. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, the National Assembly has reacted strongly to the president's decision to replace the Prime Minister and Finance Minister. The main opposition party says the move shows President Park doesn't seem to understand the public's will for more. We connect live with our parliamentary correspondent, Park Ji-won. Ji-won.
Hello, Mark. The opposition parties have strongly criticized the presidential office's decision to replace key members of her cabinet. The main opposition Democratic Party of Korea said the top office's move has nothing to do with forming a coalition cabinet. It said the president doesn't understand the level of public outrage over the Choi Soon-sil scandal. The Liberal Party added that the presidential office was just trying to disentangle itself from the situation by hastily appointing some cabinet members while maintaining the Justice Minister, who has the final word on the current investigation into the Choi case. The party also said the top office should show a willingness to accept the investigation and reveal the truth about all the allegations. The minor opposition People's Party also strongly reacted to the news. It said President Park should have at least tried to talk with opposition leaders over the appointment of the Prime Minister if the top office really meant to form a coalition cabinet. The party says it will work with the Justice Party to boycott the confirmation hearing of the Prime Minister and continue consulting with two other opposition parties on all matters related to the scandal. But it warned that from now, the party will be very tough on the administration. Meanwhile, the embattled leadership of the ruling Saenuri Party, who have been under intense pressure from in and outside of the party to step down, have actually refused to resign. Party chief Lee Jung-hyun said this morning that he needs to help from the party's Supreme Council to resolve the fallout from the scandal. And Mark, I will bring you more updates as I get them in a later newscast. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ji-won, for that report on the political reaction to this scandal. Now, staying with the story, state prosecutors have found evidence that links Samsung Group, Korea's largest conglomerate, to this very scandal. They are also expected to issue an arrest warrant for the woman at the very centre of this scandal this afternoon. Lee Min-young has the latest.
Prosecutors' investigation into the abuse of power scandal revolving around President Park Geun-hye's longtime confidant Choi Soon-sil has picked up speed. The latest development is that state prosecutors have found evidence Choi received around $3 million from Samsung Group last year through VDEC Sports, a company she established in Germany. Prosecutors say Choi used the money to buy a horse for her daughter Jung Yura, who was a dressage rider. They have been tracking the capital transfers through records they received from the Korea Financial Intelligence Unit and say they will soon call in Samsung officials for questioning on the matter. They have also found evidence showing Choi may have forced other Korean conglomerates to donate funds to two government-linked cultural foundations, Mir and K-Sports, that were at the heart of the original allegations against Choi. The special investigative team says an executive from retail giant Lotte Group made the claim during questioning. Prosecutors are currently focused on arranging the evidence linking Choi to corruption allegations surrounding the foundations. Choi has reportedly denied all the allegations against her, including the allegation that she embezzled money from the two foundations, claiming she never exploited her relationship with President Park. She also insists she does not know who An Jong-bom is. And the former presidential secretary for policy coordination allegedly provided support to Choi when she was involved with the foundations. An has been denying all charges against him as well, maintaining that he does not know Choi. Prosecutors will call him in on Wednesday afternoon for questioning over forced donations. Prosecutors are expected to seek an arrest warrant for Choi on Wednesday on multiple charges linked to political interference, influence peddling, and embezzlement. She has been under emergency detention since Monday, but the 48-hour time limit expires tonight. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
Now in other news, the United States and China have agreed to expand practical cooperation on regional and global challenges. This as National Security Advisor Susan Rice and Secretary of State John Kerry met with China's State Councillor Yang Jiechi in New York on Tuesday. According to the White House, the two sides decided to deal with their differences constructively and reviewed bilateral progress in, quote, bringing about a more durable, stable and productive relationship. Also in New York, the UN Security Council is still drafting a new resolution on North Korea's latest provocations, which is why observers believe Tuesday's meeting included negotiations on the level of sanctions to be imposed on Pyongyang, as the US and China have different stances on the issue. Now, North Korea could be getting ready to launch another missile before the week is out. Two US officials told a US news network that a launch is imminent, but the Pentagon is remaining tight-lipped on the possibility. Connie Kim with the details.
North Korea may be gearing up for another ballistic missile launch within the next 3 days. Citing two U.S. officials with knowledge of the issue, Fox Business Network reported Tuesday local time that the regime is preparing to launch an intermediate-range Busan missile in the next 24 hours to 72 hours. The officials did not specify what satellite imagery might indicate a launch was imminent, and the U.S. Department of Defense has declined to confirm the report. If a launch goes ahead, it would mark the regime's 9th Busan missile launch this year. So far, the North's only intermediate-range ballistic missile launch success came in June. The Musudan missile, with a range of some 3,500 kilometers, is a growing threat, as it would put the U.S. base on the Pacific island of Guam within striking distance if it becomes operational. The timing of the possible launch is significant, as it would come a few days before the U.S. presidential election. Pyongyang has record of launching provocations around its key anniversaries, but Washington believes this trend will change. After a recent meeting with U.S. officials in Washington,
Two South Korean lawmakers said there is a possibility the North could forge ahead with a nuclear test, ballistic missile launch, or even a provocation at the inter-Korean border before or after the U.S. presidential election or the presidential inauguration in January. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, a conservative think tank in the United States has refuted Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump's long-running claim that the U.S. is losing money by stationing troops here in South Korea. Instead, the report says the U.S. is saving money. Hwang Ho-jun with the details.
Donald Trump has claimed on numerous occasions that countries are not paying their fair share for the defense.
We defend Japan, we defend Germany, we defend South Korea, we defend Saudi Arabia, we defend countries. They do not pay us. We are being ripped off by everybody in the world. We're defending other countries. We are spending a fortune doing it.
But a U.S.-based political think tank says otherwise. The American Action Forum's latest report, out Tuesday, says countries around the world that host U.S. military bases contribute hundreds of millions of dollars per year to support the American troop presence. Germany, Japan, and South Korea are the three countries that host the largest number of U.S. troops overseas. More than 45,000 active-duty military personnel are stationed in Japan, 35,000 in Germany, and 25,000 in South Korea. Together, these three nations host over 50% of all active-duty U.S. troops stationed overseas. Germany, which represents the highest cost for the U.S. military presence, contributes about 18% of the overall cost. South Korea and Japan contribute 41% and 50% respectively to support the U.S. military presence in their country. In addition, this does not include the so-called hidden cost, which is the land on which the installations sit and is often significant and strategically or commercially valuable territory. The report also says the U.S. is actually saving money by stationing troops in South Korea instead of at home, emphasizing that U.S. bases overseas are not only strategically valuable, but also cost-effective. The report is in line with what Vincent Brooks, the U.S. Forces Korea commander, said earlier this year at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing in April, when he said South Korea is carrying, quote, a significant load when it comes to the U.S. troop presence on the peninsula. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
In around a week from now, we'll know the next president of the United States. And as the race enters its final stretch, it seems Donald Trump is the candidate with the momentum. While a number of polls show Trump is surging, a leading credit rating agency says it expects Hillary Clinton to win by a landslide. Kim Mo-gyun has the details.
Donald Trump has jumped in the polls over the past week, erasing a 12-point deficit in the latest ABC News Washington Post national tracking poll. Conducted from October 27th to the 30th, the poll showed Trump leading Hillary Clinton by 1 point at 46% to 45%, with Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson and the Green Party's Jill Stein taking 3% and 2% respectively. This marks the first time Trump has led that survey since May. Clinton has been dropping in the polls in the aftermath of the FBI's bombshell revelation last Friday that it had reopened its criminal probe into Clinton's use of a private server when she was Secretary of State. However, a model that has correctly predicted the winner of every U.S. presidential race since 1980 paints a different picture. The Moody's Analytics model forecasts Clinton will get 332 electoral votes, while Trump is predicted to 206. The majority of the 538 electoral votes, 270 is required to win the presidency. It picked the improving U.S. economy and the popularity of President Obama as the two main reasons. Moody's says the improved economy is reflected by the growth in household income and lower gas prices, and it says Obama's high approval ratings will also play a big role in swaying undecided voters' minds towards Clinton. Kim Mo-gyun, Arirang News.
Now, Iraqi forces have entered Mosul, the Islamic State group's last major urban center in the country. Iraq's Joint Operations Command says its security forces reached the eastern edge of Mosul on Tuesday. Officials say the troops are encountering snipers and landmines as they attempt to drive ISIS militants out of that city. The Iraqi forces include the elite counter-terrorism forces, the Iraqi army and Kurdish fighters, and are backed by a US-led coalition that provides advisors on the ground and in the air as well. Iraqi government says the number of ISIS forces is estimated to be somewhere between a few thousand to 10,000. Global investment banks are warning that Korea's fourth quarter growth could take a hit due to the country's recent political climate. International firms such as Citigroup, Barclays and Credit Suisse have said political uncertainties caused by the Choi Soon-sil scandal, on top of recent events such as Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 recall, the workers' strike at Hyundai Motor and the adoption of new anti-graft laws, has increased the risk of an economic slowdown. They've also expressed concerns about the latest political scandal delaying the passage of the government budget plan at the National Assembly and slowing down the corporate restructuring drive. Well, those are the stories we'll be following on this Wednesday afternoon here in Seoul. Stay tuned to Arirang News throughout the day. We'll have more on the cabinet reshuffle sparked by the power abuse scandals. We do have updates every 2 hours. Have a great day. Goodbye.